Have you ever wondered why the harder you try to control life, the more it slips through your fingers? You plan, you push, you force outcomes to happen. Yet somehow, things still fall apart. It's like holding sand in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it escapes. Deep down, you know this truth, that life cannot be tamed by force. But still, you fight the current. You fight yourself. You fight time, hoping that effort alone will bend reality in your favor. And when it doesn't, frustration takes over. You start to believe that maybe you're not enough, that maybe life is unfair, or that your moment will never come. But what if it's not about fighting harder? What if it's about allowing life to unfold naturally at its own rhythm in its own divine order? This is the wisdom that Shi Heng Yi speaks of. Do not force anything, because what is meant for you does not need to be chased. It flows toward you when you are ready, not when you demand it. Forcing things is an act of fear. The fear of losing control, of being left behind, of not being enough. Yet the truth is, control is just an illusion. The more you cling to it, the more you distance yourself from peace. Think about all the times you tried to make something happen before it's time. A relationship, a job, a dream. You poured everything into it and still it slipped away. Not because you weren't capable, but because it wasn't aligned yet. Every disappointment you've ever faced was not a punishment, but a redirection. Life was not denying you, it was preparing you. It was shaping you, strengthening you, carving you into someone capable of holding what you were asking for. When you stop forcing, something magical happens. You begin to trust. You start to see that everything, even the delays and detours, carries meaning. You breathe deeper. You stop rushing. You realize that growth doesn't come from constant struggle, but from alignment. The moment you let go of control, you step into flow. And in that flow, everything begins to move, not because you pushed it, but because you allowed it. Staying in this video will remind you of that truth. It will teach you how to release resistance, how to stop fighting yourself, and how to reconnect with the natural rhythm of life. You'll understand why the most powerful people are not those who force outcomes, but those who master patience, presence, and faith. So as you listen, allow yourself to relax. Let every word be a mirror that shows you who you really are. Not someone desperate to make things happen, but someone capable of trusting life enough to let it happen. The path ahead is not about control. It's about surrendering to the wisdom that everything has its own time, and your time is coming. By the end of this journey, you'll see that letting go isn't giving up. It's rising above. It's stepping out of fear and into flow. You'll feel lighter, clearer, and stronger, ready to face life not with tension, but with calm certainty. Stay with this message until the end, because somewhere within these words lies the peace you've been chasing all along. The quiet understanding that you don't have to force what's already meant for you. Letting go is one of the hardest things you will ever do, not because it's complicated, but because it demands trust. Trust in life. Trust in life. Trust in timing. Trust in yourself. Your mind wants certainty. It wants to know when things will work out, how they will happen, and what you need to do to make them real. But life doesn't work that way. It moves in cycles, not straight lines. It gives, it takes, it pauses, it redirects. And in those pauses, your impatience whispers, do something, fix it, force it. That voice is loud because it's driven by fear. Fear that stillness means failure. Yet the truth is, stillness is not failure. Stillness is strength. It's in those quiet moments when you stop fighting that you begin to hear the direction life is trying to give you. It's in the moments when you want to rush, but instead, you breathe. When you want to worry, but instead, you choose gratitude. That's how you train your mind to align with life instead of fighting it. Over time, that alignment creates a deep sense of peace. Not because everything is perfect, but because you stop needing it to be. The beauty of not forcing is that it allows space for miracles to unfold, the kind that logic can't explain. When you stop demanding that life follow your plan, you give it permission to surprise you. You start seeing doors where you thought there were only walls. You meet people who guide you without knowing why. You find yourself in places you never expected, but somehow they feel exactly right. That's what happens when you live in flow. Everything begins to move with a sense of effortless timing. The mind may still whisper doubts, but the heart knows better. It knows that peace comes not from control, but from connection. Connection to yours peace begins the moment you stop arguing with reality. The moment you stop insisting that life should look a certain way, the moment you stop fighting what already is, that's where real power lives. Not in control, but in acceptance. Because acceptance doesn't mean you settle. It means you see things clearly. It means you acknowledge life exactly as it is, without resistance, without judgment, without the need to force change before understanding the lesson. From that clarity, true transformation begins. Every struggle you faced has been trying to teach you this. That peace isn't found when everything goes your way, but when you can remain centered no matter what happens. The storms in your life were never sent to destroy you. They were sent to purify you. They strip away the illusions, the attachments, the beliefs that no longer serve who you're becoming. And yes, it hurts. Growth always does. But every time you face pain and choose not to resist it, you reclaim your strength. You start to realize that you are not the storm. You are the calm inside it. When you stop forcing, you begin to trust that even chaos has purpose. You stop labeling every setback as failure and start seeing it as refinement. You understand that rejection redirects you, that loss opens new space for something greater, that endings are not cruel but necessary. This shift in perception changes everything. Because the same event that breaks one person can awaken another. The difference lies only in perspective. You have the power to choose how you see what happens to you. And when you choose faith over frustration, your energy transforms from resistance to resilience. Human beings are wired to seek control because control feels safe. But control is an illusion, a fragile comfort that keeps you chasing certainty in an uncertain world. Freedom comes when you release that chase, when you accept that not everything is meant to be understood, fixed, or predicted. Some things are meant to be felt, experienced, and learned from. And when you embrace that, you step into alignment with life instead of conflict with it. You begin to experience flow, the effortless movement between effort and ease, doing and being, action and surrender. That's where the most meaningful growth happens. Acceptance is not passive, it's the highest form of courage. It's standing tall in front of what you cannot change and saying, I trust that this too has a reason. That kind of faith rewires your mind. It quiets the endless why me and replaces it with what is this teaching me? It turns your pain into wisdom and your waiting into preparation. And suddenly you realize that life has always been guiding you, even through the moments that made no sense. When you stop forcing, you make peace with uncertainty. You stop needing answers right now because you start believing that the answers will come when you're ready to understand them. This is where peace turns into power. Because nothing external can shake someone who has made peace within. You begin to walk lighter, speak calmer, and move with quiet confidence. The world may still be unpredictable, but inside you are steady. You are no longer controlled by fear or by the need to make everything perfect. You are finally living, not by force, but by flow, to the present, to the natural rhythm of life. You don't need to push, you only need to trust. And as you trust, you begin to see that life was never testing your strength. It was teaching you how to stop resisting your own becoming. When you stop forcing life, you begin to rediscover yourself. You start to see beyond the noise of what the world told you to be and reconnect with who you truly are. Beneath all the striving and pressure, beneath all the plans and expectations, there is a quiet presence that has always known peace. It's the part of you that doesn't need validation or control to feel complete. The part that simply exists, calm, aware, steady. Most people lose touch with this inner stillness because they spend their lives chasing identity through outcomes. They think they'll finally feel whole when they achieve something, or when someone finally sees their worth. But the peace they're searching for was never outside. It was buried under the constant need to prove, to push, to perform. The moment you stop forcing, you allow that stillness to surface again. You begin to feel comfortable with yourself. Not the version you think you should be, but the one you already are. You stop measuring your worth by your progress, and you start seeing progress as a reflection of your alignment. Because when you're at peace within, the world around you begins to shift to match that peace. Life starts to feel lighter, more meaningful, more connected. You no longer rush through moments to get somewhere else. You start living in them fully. You start noticing the small miracles, the ones that were always there, waiting for your attention. This is where true confidence comes from. Not from control, but from connection. When you trust yourself, you no longer need to force anything. You move from a place of quiet assurance, knowing that what's meant for you cannot miss you. That belief changes how you show up. You start speaking with clarity, acting with purpose, and walking with calm strength. You stop chasing people who don't see your value because you no longer question it yourself. You stop comparing paths because you finally understand that your journey has its own rhythm. And you stop doubting your timing because you begin to see how perfectly everything has unfolded to bring you here, to this very moment of awareness. The irony is, when you stop forcing outcomes, things start falling into place naturally. Opportunities align. The right people appear. The right paths reveal themselves, not because you demanded them, but because you became open enough to receive them. That's how life responds to peace. It flows where it's welcomed. And when you become that space of calm openness, everything that belongs to you begins to move toward you. This is the secret that few understand. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And when you are peaceful, patient, and trusting, life mirrors that back to you. The energy you hold becomes the reality you live. Forcing things sends out a signal of lack, of fear, of desperation. But trust sends out a signal of abundance, of readiness, of quiet power. And the world always responds to the energy you project. So breathe. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are unfolding. Every delay, every detour, every unanswered question is shaping you in ways you cannot yet see. You don't need to force your becoming. You only need to keep becoming. Let your stillness be your strength. The more you learn to flow with life, the more you realize that peace and progress are not opposites. You can move forward without pressure. You can grow without force. You can achieve without losing yourself in the process. The world often teaches the opposite, that you must fight, grind, and struggle to deserve success. But that belief only feeds exhaustion. It makes you chase life instead of experience it. True strength isn't in how hard you push. It's in how deeply you align. It's in your ability to stay calm in uncertainty, to move with intention, and to trust that each step, no matter how small, is enough. When you stop forcing, you begin to see that everything unfolds in divine timing. Every door that didn't open was protecting you. Every silence was teaching you patience. Every ending was creating space for a better beginning. The mind resists this truth because it craves instant results. It believes that without control, everything will fall apart. But the heart knows better. It understands that real growth takes time. It knows that sometimes you have to pause, not because you're failing, but because you're preparing. Every season of waiting refines you. Every moment of stillness builds unseen strength. Life is not withholding anything from you. It's aligning you with what's truly meant for you. The more you trust this process, the lighter you become. You stop chasing outcomes and start cultivating peace. You stop demanding proof and start embodying faith. That's when you begin to notice a subtle yet powerful shift. Your energy no longer feels chaotic. It feels clear. You're no longer trying to control the outcome. You're focused on mastering the moment. And in mastering the moment, you master your life. Because life only ever happens now. Not in the past you're trying to fix. Not in the future you're trying to predict. But in this exact breath. This moment is where your power lives, and when you stop forcing, you finally learn how to live in it. Every time you choose presence over pressure, you create space for alignment. You make room for intuition to guide you instead of fear, and intuition never rushes. It whispers, it nudges, it leads you gently toward what feels right, not what looks right. When you follow that inner voice, you stop wasting energy fighting against yourself. You stop second-guessing every decision because your choices come from clarity, not anxiety. That's how peace turns into power, through awareness, through trust, through stillness. You were never meant to live in a constant state of resistance. You were meant to flow, to create, to love, to grow, naturally, rhythmically, gracefully. The more you let go, the more you realize that forcing life only keeps you trapped in fear, but trusting it sets you free. It frees you from the weight of expectations, from the need to prove, from the illusion that you are running out of time. You begin to understand that what's meant for you will never need to be forced, and what needs to be forced was never meant for you. You let that truth sink in. You are allowed to breathe again. You are allowed to slow down without losing direction. You are allowed to trust that your pace is enough, your progress is enough, and your presence is enough. Life is not asking you to push harder. It's asking you to be here, fully, openly, peacefully. Because when you are, everything else begins to move effortlessly in your favor. Let your peace be your power. And watch how life begins to align with the calm rhythm of your heart. When you finally stop forcing life, you begin to understand what peace truly feels like. It's not the absence of challenges, but the absence of struggle against what is. It's a quiet inner knowing that you can face whatever comes, without losing yourself in the process. You stop reacting to every uncertainty as a threat, and start seeing it as part of the unfolding. That's the freedom that comes with surrender, not the surrender of action, but the surrender of resistance. You still move, still strive, still grow, but with grace instead of fear. You no longer run through life with clenched fists. You walk with open hands, ready to receive what's meant for you and release what's not. This shift changes how you see everything. You no longer chase happiness like it's somewhere out there waiting to be found. You begin to realize it has always been within you, buried under worry, beneath expectation, hidden behind the noise of a not enough. The moment you stop forcing, that noise quiets down. You begin to feel joy in simple things again, a breath, a sunrise, a moment of silence that doesn't feel empty anymore. The peace you were searching for was never something to achieve. It was something to uncover. It was waiting for you beneath all the forcing. And with that peace comes clarity. You begin to see that life is not random. Every experience, every delay, every connection, they all weave together in ways you couldn't have planned. What once felt like chaos begins to make sense in hindsight. You start recognizing how every detour had purpose, how every heartbreak expanded your capacity to love, how every loss deepened your compassion. This awareness transforms you from someone who fights life into someone who flows with it. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start understanding, this is happening for me. That single shift opens the door to a life that feels lighter, freer, more aligned with who you truly are. There's immense strength in this kind of calm, because when you stop being controlled by fear, you become unshakable. You no longer depend on circumstances to feel okay. You carry your peace within you, and no external chaos can take it away. That's the strength of someone who no longer forces life, someone who trusts it. Someone who can act with purpose, yet remain unattached to outcome. It's a kind of confidence that doesn't need validation. It's grounded, steady, quiet. It doesn't shout. It simply knows. This is the place where true creation begins. When your heart is still, your mind becomes clear. Inspiration flows through you effortless. Ideas, connections, opportunities, they appear naturally because you're not blocking them with tension. You're in harmony with the moment. You're no longer trying to control the river, you've become part of its flow. That's when life starts to feel miraculous again. Not because everything is easy, but because everything feels purposeful. You realize you were never here to force life into shape. You were here to experience it fully, to learn, to love, to evolve, without resistance. The peace you find in that awareness is not fragile. It doesn't vanish when things get difficult. It deepens. It anchors you. It reminds you that no matter how uncertain the path ahead may seem, you have everything you need to walk it. You are not behind, you are not lacking. You are exactly where you're meant to be, open, aware,